Just a reminder, everyone, mute yourselves. And also for questions, John, do you want to be interrupted, or you want to hold those at the end?
Well, we can hold them at the end, but if any questions or comments, they can put in the chat section. Just because we want it to go along smoothly, and not only that, but you have your stuff to do at the end if you're still around.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Excellent. So we have a quite a bit of people today. Thank you for coming again. There is an invitation, I repeat, in the chat room for our Discord. You're seeing my screen. That's our meetup. That's usually how we announce our events. Keep in touch. We are also open to suggestions and submissions. If you have a tool that you want to showcase, an investigation or research that you would like to share with us, you are more than welcome to reach out to us, and we'll be glad to give you a space for you to present. And with that, I'm going to give the floor to Jonathan. So Jonathan, take it away.
Okay. Rod, do I select share at the bottom or just?
You have to select share screen and then select your application.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can everyone see my, Rod, can you see my screen?
Yeah, looking good.
Okay. Also, Rod and Marco, just do me a favor. If you happen to lose me, because sometimes my connection be a little spotty, just go ahead and let me know. Like say, hey, we lost you, or you're kind of scratchy, you sound kind of scratchy and stuff.
Okay.
That way so I could go ahead and fix it.
Sure.
Okay, thanks. Okay, well, thanks for all for having me. What I'm going to do is just do an introduction on open source intelligence, just the basics. Okay, for the agenda, I'm going to talk about who I am, discuss a little bit about what is open source intelligence, and before I go any further, one thing about open source intelligence is a lot to cover here. Whether it's whether you're talking about like what is good, the bad using open source intelligence, whether you're doing OSINT on people, or you're doing OSINT on a business or an area. You're talking about creating sock puppets, using a tool, onion router tour, or you're what different OSINT tools to use. And we could use we can have many different discussions on that, because I know that for those of you who used Joe Gray's course through Trace Labs in the OSINT, for the missing people open source intelligence courses, those could be like 6 to 8 hours, just talking about all the details. So this right here is just to scratch the surface and just give some things for you guys to think about moving forward. So with that, going to talk about what's good, a little bit about what's good and the bad, people OSINT, business OSINT. They talk about a little about protecting your privacy and stuff, because you're doing some research online, especially what you enter can be tracked. So it's always good to protect yourself, because you never know who's actually able to trace you. Then we also got creating a sock puppet. That's also protect your privacy. Using a VPN tour. I have some pictures to show you guys if we have time. You guys can tell me where they're actually located. OSINT, and also give you guys hints. Some popular OSINT tools to use, some resources, and some education and training. So a little bit about myself. I'm Jonathan Klein, San Jose native, one of the few San Jose natives who still live in the area. If you're all familiar with how much Silicon Valley costs. Then also, I've been a network engineer in IT for 10 plus years. Before that, I was a United States Army officer, was a field artillery signal officer. I've been to I was stationed for Kansas, and then I was in Germany. Learned that I've been in Oklahoma, Georgia. I've been overseas to Kuwait and also Africa. And looking to grow in a blue team role. Just got hired on as a cybersecurity analyst. But right now, it's just pending security investigations. That's the standard protocol for the position I'm going into. Some things I like to enjoy is traveling, hiking. There's a lot of great hiking places across the Bay Area. I like to read, not just professionally, because you never stop growing, but also just like anything like biographies, support, anything about sports, anything about science fiction, like football, both American football and also European football, soccer, soccer. They call it, everyone else calls it football. And then also like listen to the podcasts and also enjoy looking at true crime. And one thing I always like to do, and this is like in IT or cybersecurity or whatever role you have, is you always never stop learning. And what is open source intelligence? It's out of the way. Okay. Process of gathering, collecting, and analyzing information, which is apart from public and open resources. So it's not just necessarily. So when it comes to getting up, that right there is many different ways you can do about it. And what you're not doing is you're actually, it's more a passive reconnaissance. For those of you taking like the CEH or Pentest Plus, it's a passive reconnaissance and active reconnaissance. And one thing about passive reconnaissance is you're looking at public and open resources. Active reconnaissance is you're actually touching the, you're actually doing scanning of the company's network. Yeah. Okay, what is open source intelligence used for? Used by individual people. If you're finding a home, one thing you want to research is you want to know about, like, you know, the property you're buying, such as who's been living in it, why are they leaving the property. You also want to research the neighborhood, like the schools that are around for your children if you have them, places to go in your spare time, whether it's like good hiking trails or good restaurants or bars to meet people and to hang out with your friends. And also, it's good to like check out the crime area, crime in the area. Is it mostly like a lot of people like breaking into cars because somebody left the door unlocked or left the window down? Is there actually a physical crime where someone gets mugged or somebody gets shot? That's always something important to look at. And also for job search and stuff, because one thing is you want to learn more about the position. That means like what you'll actually be doing, what systems you'll be using, who you're going to be working with, why the position is open, and learn a little about the company. Is it kind of more of an established company? Is it an up and coming company? Is the management good or not? How far away? How much far do I have to drive? Will I have to relocate soon? Will I have to do a lot of business travel, whether it's like 25%, 40% of the time? That's something good to do. And also even for social activities. Now, I can't speak for anywhere outside the Bay Area, but let's say if I'm going up to San Francisco, I want to see, especially parking and driving up there can be pretty bad. I'm going to want to see where can I park my car? Should I stop at Millbrae or Fremont and just take BART up there? Is the neighborhood I'm going to safe? And also like in area places, like if I'm going to a concert, is there a place I get a drink afterwards, or even something that's going to be open late for like a little snack or something? And also for businesses can use it for researching competitors, what they're doing through, you know, especially if they're a public company, they're going to have a lot out there. You can also research market trends, like what customers are looking for, and especially how the economy is affecting businesses and customers. And also you can when it comes to hiring candidates, you can do open source intelligence on prospective employees. You know, check their social media. I mean, you want to make sure they don't have like they're not playing like drinking games in college or something like that. But you also want to make sure they're not, you know, putting anything detrimental to them, where it's like a little too polarizing, whether it's political or religious. You want to be that's something you got to be careful about. And also one thing, open source intelligence, journalists use it all the time. That's to protect the resources and gain more information, and to protect themselves, especially if they're investigating anything like criminal activity or anything, any political figures or any like authoritarian countries. That's something you got to be careful about. Law enforcement use it to capture criminals. Military use it for military intelligence. And as far as like when you're planning a mission, you gotta be aware of your enemy and also what the terrain is going to. For some of you probably who've been in the military, there's METC, mission, enemy, time, terrain, troops, and civilians. And then you also have a COCA. That's another acronym that we use. And also military, and also intelligence agencies, NSA, CIA use that. Okay, open source intelligence, some of the good and the bad. Good and bad is kind of both business OPSEC. Good thing about business OPSEC is that you can really, it really is good for like making sure that your business is secure. Like where you have security guards, as far as like what people post online about the business, like whether it be pictures or talking about like good or bad about the company, what the company's about to do, when it's supposed to be like private, when it's supposed to be confidential about an upcoming acquisition. You know, you want to make sure your employees don't do that, because when it comes to employees, they're the weakest link when it comes to security. For those of you who've been in the security business, and for but some of the bad stuff for business OPSEC is if you don't have good training, and if you don't have good security practices, people can easily find out a lot of information about the business, even your employees, if they have any like acts of revenge because they just recently got fired. That's where it can be bad for business OPSEC. Also, a good thing is for house hunting. I mentioned that before. You want to research property. If you're job hunting, you get to learn a lot about the company using open source intelligence. And it's also when you're working with vendors, you want to make sure that are they good? What previous customers said about it. And some of the bad stuff is stalking. Please don't do that right there. And also doxing, where you're putting private information out for the public to people on certain individuals. If you guys do that, hopefully you guys go to jail. Okay. Now start with people or source intelligence. Just some things to look at is look at people look at people in public record sites, including some that's like Intellius. You've probably heard of that. Also, Family Tree Now is a good one right there. That's free, where you put in their first name, last name, and state, because it'll show you like what addresses they've been, what are potential email addresses. I'm not going to go on to it. Just want to protect people's confidentiality, including mine. I also talk about like relatives who they're connected to, whether it's like parents, grandparents, cousins, siblings, spouses, children. Also talk about business associates, like people they go into business with. So you use that when you go on their social media profiles, such as Facebook. You can always look at their profile, like what they post, anything they share, what pictures they use. You can look on Twitter, who they follow, who follows them, and what they post. LinkedIn, where they worked in the past, and then Instagram, like what pictures they actually post. Now, for social media profiles, which you can also do when you go into Facebook, for example, the more social ones, Facebook and Instagram, you can also research not just target themselves, but who they're connected with, family members, friends, business associates, all that stuff. Now, as far as for a data breach, dumps, that's also another way. That's something also you can do. I know that there's a Udemy course of open source intelligence fundamentals where Heath Adams, also known as a cyber mentor, he also has a YouTube page, and he's also on Twitch, but he charges extra. That's where like mentees he has. He talks about data breach dumps, and also for friends, and also people listen for friends, family, personal connections through social media, as I mentioned before. You can also use dating apps, Match, Plenty of Fish, OkCupid. I could say something about like, they'll show pictures of themselves, what they're looking for, where they live. And you can also what you want to do is spider out friends, families, hobbies, and place of work, like through social media, like who their friends are, families are, any hobbies they have. They may post on social media, place of work, where they work at, and who works with them. Also, another thing you do for people for open source intelligence is image search. A couple good ones are Google reverse image search, where you can go ahead and post a photo to that. And it'll say like where it's like, they give you a good idea about where it's located. And Yandex is the one that's Russian, but it's actually a very good one to use. It's a lot more accurate than Google reverse image search and other ones. Okay. Now for business, one thing, business hosting, you go on the business website, you look at, they should have something about under about us, talk about the leadership, who the CEO is, CEO, CMO. That could be something if you're researching, if you're a competitor, or if you're actually looking to get a job there. You can also look at company reviews, what people actually say about it, like what the work culture is like, what's the good, the bad, the ugly about it, any advice they have to management. For company profiles, you do for company profiles and insights on LinkedIn, show how big the company is, how they've been growing, have they been downsizing, and also like they'll show like news, they'll share news about profile, who their employees are, anything they post on LinkedIn. Also, if we could look at social media, especially employee pictures, because sometimes for these pictures right here, this could be go back to business OPSEC. You can also go to if you're doing a penetration testing, if they show any possible ID badges. You'd be surprised it happens all the time where they do a company photo and right around the belt line. Oh yes, Alan, I can get you a copy of the slides. And where sometimes along their belt they have like their badge hanging down, and they may not intend to show it, but it's actually shown and stuff. So you can see a picture. Do they have does it say the company name, what their position is, and also their do they have any certain stripes on it or any numbering on that? And also you look at employee faces. You use that to find out who also works there, and they can actually be connected to you. And also one thing about business OSINT is company news, as I mentioned before, through social media and job and company profiles and company reviews. That way you can learn more about the company, what direction they're going in, and any new products they have come out, or any recognition they've had in the industry. Another good one for business open source intelligence. This is one thing that the Cyber Mentor talks on his Udemy course is 100.io. That's for looking at email addresses. You can go on, you basically sign on. You can type in a company domain name, for example, Cisco.com. And it'll come up with people who work for Cisco, but you'll have to sign on to get more information on that. And also, you can just go. Another business source intelligence is Google Maps, what's nearby, whether it's certain highways, any other businesses, any roads. You can always look at the parking lot, see how full or empty it is, and also to see what's a good place to good way to get in there, and also maybe anything else any logos or maybe employees walking around. That's something to consider. And one thing about when it comes to open source intelligence, you always want to protect your privacy, because one thing is that you never know, even if you're not targeting somebody, but someone's targeting you, it's always good to be careful, because you'd be surprised what people can find online. First thing is, what you want to do is turn off your location GPS services. One good example is, and this is a few years ago, I can go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and send the slides out. You can go ahead and look at this link right here. This is in Afghanistan. Soldiers were using, how you have the those fitness apps where they track My Fitness app, I believe that's what it's called, where you can actually track where you're running and how far you run and stuff. What happens is that the enemy can track that right there, and just by where they're running, they can get the perimeter of the base and where it's actually located. So that's why you always want to, especially now it's a combat zone, so it's a little different. So they want to make sure they turn that off. But even for your own privacy, sometimes when you have Facebook, when you have your on Facebook, you always want to turn off your location GPS services, because if you make a post, it could say, okay, I'm in San Jose, California. And if you're if you're at a certain location, let's say if I go to a restaurant in Los Gatos, it will say, I make a post and it's in Los Gatos, California, so people can see where you're actually going. Another thing, one thing to protect your privacy is use a VPN service. I'm going to talk about VPN service a little later. Now, the one thing is, let's say if I'm at my desktop right here, For instance, network connection, it's like my desktop, which goes to a modem, which goes to the ISP, which goes to the site I'm visiting and stuff. So if somebody actually finds out like where you're actually, finds out your location, they go onto domain tools, put in the IP address, and it'll show exactly like your mailing, like what service provider you use, what your mailing address is. Another thing you could use is the Onion router. That's more like especially if you're going to the dark web. I'll talk about that a little later. The most important thing about that is you want to show less of your detail. Like I mentioned, the badges earlier, you don't want to be showing that. Probably don't want to be showing like anything around your home because you don't want people stalking you there. You also want to make sure that you don't like show, too much about like, who your favorite team is, your family members. You want to keep that private for people. So if you have for your people, So on your Facebook page, what you want to do is like, for anything that is anything you put on there, just keep it like private with friends. Now it's one thing to put like, okay, I live in San Jose, or in just like a profile pic, but don't put too much detail, because like I say, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and you'd be surprised what people can find. Another thing is creating a sock puppet. I could do like there could be like a whole another course on a sock puppet. I'll just add a little more details in a little bit. Okay. Now for creating a sock puppet, first off, you want to create an account on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, especially on Facebook, because one thing is, anytime you do somebody, you probably noticed this before when you go to like your potential friends, suggested friends page, is that you see like a bunch of people like who, people you possibly know and stuff. Like what happens is they're actually viewed your profile, so they're stalking you. So you always want to create a sock puppet, because you don't want someone saying, hey, I know that guy, or oh, I know that person, like I've seen him at my work, or I know the person I bumped in the bar, he was a jerk. I don't want to be around that guy. So that's the reason why you always want to create a sock puppet. And plus, especially for missing persons, you never know who may have got access to that profile. So it's always good to create a sock puppet anytime you see people. Now, what you want to do is like get a separate email. Don't use your own personal email, whether you use it for business or use it for just personal stuff like tracking subscriptions or any or just like sending email to friends, family members. Use encrypted email that's completely dedicated to setting up a sock puppet. Second thing is you want to get a burner phone for the account. Now, you can purchase cheap ones at Target, Walmart, or Best Buy. Don't use like your iPhone or Samsung Galaxy you normally use. Okay, and even don't get like this. Sometimes they have those burner apps. It's much better to get a burner phone. Okay, because they can still track. They can possibly still track like where that phone's coming from, who it belongs to. Another thing is you can get a SIM card through Mint Mobile for pretty cheap. And now for setting up a profile, you use a profile picture. For your profile picture, go to this person does not exist. That way you can get like it's an AI generated photo of it's not like people actually do exist. So I would say, well, I know that guy. Isn't that the guy? Someone's targeting me, but you could be targeting somebody, and somebody says, well, I know that guy. He's he's actually like he lives down the street from me. So it's going to be AI generated where it's somebody who does not exist. And profile information, fake name generator, what you come up with is you want to have it according to the region. I'll talk about that a little bit of where the target is located. And they can give you a name, mailing address, and pretty much like age and gender. And also you can put that in as well. Also, you make sure like anytime you're using your sock pet, use Tor or VPN. That way, it's not going to come back to your phone, laptop, desktop, where they can track where somebody can track where you are, because you never know who's monitoring your target. You never know who you're targeting. And one thing is you always want to be realistic about your target demographic, because for your target demographic, if I'm doing and one thing that tracelabs.org, I'll mention them a little later. They do like a CTF. They do CTFs. They'll do ongoing ops for searching for missing person, for searching for missing people. If I'm searching for somebody in say Paris, France. Okay, then I'm gonna want to put like a sock puppet that's realistic for that for someone being in Paris, France. If I'm over here in San Jose, California, which is a 9-hour difference in Paris, France, and I'm always like active as if I'm in San Jose, California, and people say, okay, something's kind of not really right here unless he's working graveyard. So people that could be a red flag right there. Also, if since for me I'm in my mid 40s, if my target is in their late teens, early 20s, and if I use like a sock puppet that's in their 40s, then people will think I'm some kind of pervert, or that's going to also raise a red flag too. So, want to have somebody who's like more close to that age right there, possibly same gender, and also just like make the profile where it's like kind of like not exactly the same, but similar to the person, like same age, same industry. You also want to make sure you have knowledge of the industry too, and you also want to have if you're setting up a sock puppet to target somebody outside of the area, outside of your area, make sure you're aware of like the customs and culture and society rules of that area and stuff. Because living in the West Coast, different than the East Coast, different than the South, and it's also different than Europe. Okay, for using a VPN, this is kind of how it's set up. You have your monitor. Connect to your modem. It goes to your ISP, whether it's AT&T, Verizon, or Comcast. This could go to a VPN server. VPN server could be anything like NordVPN, CyberGhost, or it can be ExpressVPN. And that'll take you out to the website. Now, these websites right here, they're not going to see your IP address to your modem and your computer. They're going to see the IP address from the VPN server. So if they want to do a search on that IP address, they're going to see it belongs to a VPN server, where that be CyberGhost, NordVPN, ExpressVPN, and anything associated with that. Okay. Now using Tor, this is more for like this is really more for privacy and anonymity. A lot of people who go on the dark web use this, and even like a lot of journalists use this and stuff. Now the one thing is that the way it goes, this area right here, around these 3x3 computers, they're going to be that right there is like the Tor network. And so let's say if Alice is trying to communicate with Bob, the way it goes is that Alice will go through like the entry node, which is this guy right here. Now the one thing about going through her ISP VPN server, she's not going to see like ISP is not going to see her going to Bob. It's going to see her going through the Tor network, and it'll be encrypted. And it'll go through like a bunch of nodes. And also within the Tor network, you're also going to have onion sites. That's where they have a lot of stuff that is like secret, illegal, and stuff, something like Silk Road. It'll go through different nodes, and it'll come to the exit node, it'll decrypt and go straight to Bob. And what Bob's is going to see, unless Allison notes this in a message, it's going to see that comes from the Tor network. It's not going to see it comes from Alice. It's not going to see it comes from Alice's ISP. It's going to see it's going to come from the Tor network. Now, what you can also do is you can also use Tor with the VPN, or in between the Tor network and your ISP, you have your VPN server. It goes from the Tor clients, okay, on your laptop, desktop, whatever you have, your ISP, your VPN server. It's like the Tor network, which is right here, is going to see comes from a certain VPN server, whether it's NordVPN, CyberGhost, etc. Then it's going to travel through a bunch of nodes, unless you visit an onion site inside the Tor network. It's going to go through the exit node. It's going to decrypt to a certain website, or an individual, or a company server, so on. Okay. Now, one thing. Now, Mark, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Now, I just want to mention this because I do have some pictures here just to show people. Are you still going to be able to do your presentation at the end?
Yes, yeah. So just
Okay.
go for it. No worries. Go for it.
Okay. Because, hey, Rod, I think this is a good idea to maybe do afterwards. I don't want to take up people's too much time. Is maybe send this. I can send with the slides, and also I can send some more pictures I have for people to do on their own. Just figure out, okay, where are these pictures I'm showing? And I'll give you a hint. They're all in Europe.
Yeah, actually, this is gonna be play out really good with what I have. So definitely, this is gonna be good. So, so the rest of your presentation is pictures then?
Well, just I have like 6 slides of pictures.
Okay.
And let me see.
I think those pictures are gonna be good again for you know what I have. So yeah.
Okay.
Let's keep those as a practice. So we'll combine the presentations eventually. So
Okay. Now, does anyone know where possibly this is located? You put it in the chat. Yeah, this one's like not as obvious because they do have because pretty sure there's like no landmarks or anything like that. You can definitely tell there's snow, so you know it's not in California. You know it's not like in a warm. It's not some place that's coastal. One thing, some hints you could look at is you could look at the signs right here. Yeah, you can tell that's like that's over in Europe. One thing you see over here, and this is kind of cut off. Galleria, that's like a kind of shop. That's a shopping mall in Europe. You have the hotel right up here. You have some other stuff right over here on this on the right. You do have like Mazerhuta. You have this right here, and also you have the street sign right here. So I can help look if you're looking on Google Maps. Now this one right here, this is also in Europe. Some things you can look at is some of the signs over here. For anybody, if they have a certain there's a bunch of people right here. Like now, it's kind of hard because mostly it's showing their heads, but once you look at it, they dress a certain way. Because sometimes when you have you can tell by going out to Europe, the fashion is a little different over there because their cuts are a lot different. Because the one thing about Americans, we wear a lot of baggy clothes. Where there, it's more like slim fit. Or any hats they're using. That's a good hint. You can look at the sign. You can look at the signs right here. And it looks like it's very festive, so it looks like it's during Christmas time. Oops, that's a hint. And it looks like a festival. Look like a market. Oops, that's a hint. Now, here's another thing. Now, one thing is you can look at these guards right here. That's a hint. You can look at this is before like a little event they're using. You can look at this right here. You have police officer. You see some statues right here. You could look at this wheel right here. That could be a giveaway. It's a certain landmark. And you just have some people right here. More likely they're tourists. Here's another thing. Here's another one I went to. That's like a 60th anniversary. You look at this woman right here, certain sign. You can read that. And you can also see a bunch of flags. It looks like it's an open space. One thing you look at is this right here. This right here on the right. There's a sign right below, and there's like a kind of structure right there. That's one thing to look at. There's another thing to look at. This is also in Europe. You got the statue. Any of you mentioned that before? Seen that before? You have like a sign right here. Now, one thing about this is like an old photo, so sometimes the resolution's not as good. So if you try to adjust it, it's going to look a little blurry. Especially the vehicles right here. Over in Europe, it's easy. You could tell like where they're located because you have like the European Union flag on it, and then right below you have the country designation. Like D is Germany, Deutschland. You have like N, I believe, is no H is Holland. F is France. Then you have like, I believe UK or Great Britain, but they're about to leave the European Union. That's a hint you can use. You can look at the cars, maybe some of the people walking by, see what they're possibly wearing. This right here, this is I'll give you a hint. This is a soccer stadium of a famous team over in Europe. You just look at like the buses, any words there. You can look at flags. Okay, those are the pictures I have, and I can send more out if you like, Rod. As far as for there's some top open source intelligence tools. One of the big ones is open source OSINT framework. That's like the Bible when it comes to open source intelligence. There's a lot right there you can use when it comes to searching for people, where it's like searching people, searching businesses, and different tools out there on the web. Another good one is Maltego. That's a good one right there. Google Doors. That's certain techniques like file type. Oh, just saw someone commented, but it kind of faded away. Maltego is a good one right there. Exploring email domains. Shodan's a good one, especially if you're looking for cameras or any vulnerabilities. Harvester is also a good one. Spiderfoot, XF Tool. Marco's going to be talking about that, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Now, Nmap right there. Nmap you could use for OSINT, but that's more like active reconnaissance because you're actually scanning a network. So I'd say that's, but these are all, and like I said, there are like lots of open source intelligence tools around. And also Recon-NG is another one. That's sort of similar to XF Tool, where you can gather information about certain where you gather information about certain image, amongst other things. Okay, some resources to use. Open source framework I mentioned. And if you go to OSINT Curious, they talk about OSINT. They have a blog. They usually have a blog. And also I recommend going to their YouTube, because for their YouTube, what they do for their YouTube, they actually for the YouTube, they usually have like a kind of like a presentation for about an hour or two every 2 Sundays, where they have a certain guest. They talk about anything open source intelligence, any techniques, any news, any apps or anything, or any apps you use and stuff like that. If you go in their description, they actually have resources for what they were talking about, whether it's like whether it's a blog article or certain tool. That's one thing. That's good research right there. Michael Bazel's recently, as of January, he came out with his 8th edition of Open Source Intelligence Technique book. That you can only get in paperback, and it's like about $40. One good thing what I recommend is Bellingcat. They're investigative journalists. They just recently came out with a book. Now, the one thing about journalism, it can be kind of biased, and it's also more opinionated. What they do is they actually do investigations. They do investigations of any rogue regimes. They do investigations about any military occupations. They even did recent protests, like in Portland, where they had like the National Guard come in, or they also had like extremist groups. They even had talked about the insurrection that happened on January 6th, about some people were part of it. Another one I recommend is Hunting Cyber Criminals by Vinny Troya. Asked Robert about Rod, if we can actually get him on, because he knows Alex Hyde, who's one of the co-founders of Hack Miami. And another good one is How to Disappear. This right here is like by a skip tracer, who is Frank Ahern. And what talks about is how to kind of cover. It helps people cover their tracks, not just people who are criminals trying to get away from the law or anything like that, but it's also people who are who are high profile, such as business executives, politicians, or celebrities. Because one thing is you always want to kind of keep, because you really live a public life, but you don't want people like, follow you everywhere you go. So, especially if it's something simple like you're going out to dinner with your spouse, or you're going grocery shopping, or you're just going out for a jog. You just want to be sometimes you just want to be left alone. Another one that I recommend is Gray Man by Matthew Dermody. This is more for like OPSEC purposes. It's more talks about like blending in with your environment. Now, for those of you who've been in the military, one thing about it is that especially if you go overseas, you can spot an American a mile away. You can tell by their haircuts, you can tell by what they wear. I mean, not just a New York Yankees baseball jersey or a Los Angeles Lakers basketball jersey, but you can also tell like how they like the shoes they wear, like if their pants are a little baggy or loose, or if their shirts are big. You can actually tell if they're American. So it's kind of like talks a little bit about blending in with your atmosphere. It's not like a doomsday prep. Sometimes it can be a little doomsday preppy, but it's actually good to see like what it takes to actually blend in with your environment. And one good resource I recommend. This is from Hatless Wonder, who's from the Many Hats Club. That's something good to follow on. That's a good group to follow. They have a Discord channel. They talk a lot about OSINT. They also had a CONINT, the conference. This was like this past October. They had a lot of good things to talk about when it comes to open source intelligence. Now on this Start Me page, there's a lot of resources there. I mean, even so I recommend go to that first, because they talk about different blog sites, different videos, different training, who to follow. Another thing to talk about, this is what Joe Gray talks about with his classes, is reference he uses. It's Army Techniques procedures for open source intelligence. Now it's a little dated. It's as of July 2012, part of the Army, but it's actually a good resource. Education and training. One thing I forgot to mention, and let's see. Who puts this in chat? Oops. One good I mentioned was Trace Labs. What they do is they're a nonprofit group. It was started by an IT security analyst who also does search and rescue. He's up in Canada. I believe it's British Columbia or someplace else. But what he does is he set up Trace Labs. He set up local and federal law enforcement in North America, and also even in Australia. I believe also in Europe too, for finding missing persons. So you can actually, that's a great way to apply open source intelligence schools. And in conjunction with that, for the next one, the OSINT, that's by Joe Gray. He actually gives classes. It's actually very, very affordable. It's probably about $90. He gives about a 15% discount through Trace Labs. So it costs about $69. And that's good right there. I mean, he keeps it very simple, very easy. Goes over different stuff like tracking this open source intelligence for missing persons, open source intelligence for business, using regular expressions for open source intelligence. I highly recommend taking his classes. If you go onto if you go through Trace Labs, you go onto Twitter, he'll be there, and he'll show you when his classes are, because he does have some classes coming up. And also for Trace Labs this weekend, they're doing a open source intelligence CTF. You can do it by teams or individually. They usually have one round, I believe, every quarter. But that's something also to do to practice your OSINT skills. Also, there's OSINT Combine. They're of Australia. They have some good resources right there. Their classes get a little pricey. Same with Kirby Plessis for Plessis.net. She's an Army veteran. She does social media, OPSEC, and open source intelligence training. Another good site you can use is GeoGuessr. Now, GeoGuessr right there, that is if that's a good way to practice OSINT, because you go on the site and it gives you about like 5 places to explore a day, I believe. And there's also about $3, $5 if you want to do it unlimited. What it is they'll drop you anywhere on the map, and you have to find out where you're located, mainly what country it is. So it's almost like Google Maps, where you got to really explore where this is located. Where am I at right here? And there's different things you can look at. You can look at road signs. You can look if there are any businesses nearby. You could look at any signs in a certain language. You could look for any landmarks. It's definitely good for developing open source intelligence skills. A couple of courses on Udemy I recommend. These are a couple I have. Open Source Intelligence, OSINT Fundamentals by Heath Adams is also a cybermentor. He's also a veteran. He also has a YouTube page. He's also active on Twitter, and he also has a Twitch page, which you have to pay because it's more for a mentee type thing. Another thing is through Z Security, who also has a YouTube page, the ultimate dark web and anonymity, privacy, and security course. That's a good one to use. I'm doing that right now, where he talks about like using Tor and also using a certain operating systems that are secure when you're doing a type of open source intelligence, especially on the dark web, where you gotta be careful. It can be kind of dangerous. Just final words. Most important thing is about when it comes to open source intelligence is you always want to keep looking, because don't just settle on like for one certain thing. Pay attention to detail. And always remember that you've heard the saying, picture is worth 1,000 words. So even if you don't really see much information like a landmark or a certain sign, or if there's no business signs or road signs, you can still look at, okay, is this a side street? Is it a main boulevard? What's the weather? Is there any snow on the ground? Is there a lot of graffiti? Are people like wearing certain clothes? That's the utility to look at, because small information, even little information, could be very big in investigation. And Rod, that's all I have.
All right, Marcos, you're
All
up.
right, awesome. Yeah, thank you, John. It was definitely a very good presentation. Let me switch to my screen. And let me know when you see my screen, okay?
Go.
Good. All right, awesome. Give me a second. All right, well, thank you, everyone, and thank you, John. It was an awesome presentation. And so now I'm going to talk about some OSINT tools. Now, I'm not going to go, just like John said, there's too much to learn that these two presentations themselves are not going to be like big enough to provide you a lot of background on it, but it definitely is something to get you started. And I hope after this presentation, you can go and start helping with all these associations that John mentioned, like the Missing People CTF. They're using real world scenarios to do this. So with that, again, my name is Marco Palacios. So who I am, I'm a co-founder for Pacific Hackers, and I started with Rod, almost 4 years ago when US hacked the Valley, and now it became Pacific Hackers, and we're heading to a nonprofit. I've been in the industry for almost 6 years now. I have an education in always a technical education. So I came from my information systems background, IT, and then eventually went to get my master's in cybersecurity. Currently working with Fortinet. I left Fortinet a few months ago, well, last year, and then went for a startup, and then came back to Fortinet, doing a different role and all that. So again, I was doing IT before security. I was doing IT operations. And I was also in the Air Force, where I was able to help, in one deployment that I did. As you can see, I have some certifications. So that's pretty much about me. So what's the agenda for today? So what I'm going to walk you through is going to be a scenario. And I hope you like this scenario because, well, I'm not going to give spoilers, but you will see it in a second. I'm going to talk a little bit about the OSINT framework that John mentioned as well. And I'm going to show you some reverse image methods. I'm going to show you how to set up a machine to conduct these investigations and talk a little bit about privacy. But in reality, John actually did a better job talking about privacy. I'm just going to show you, it's kind of like a follow-up on that. And that's pretty much it. So I'm going to talk with this scenario. So one of my favorite movies is Taken. And I know we have, new generation folks that, probably back in between 2000 and 2010 were still young enough that probably you will not remember this movie. But Taken is one of those movies that, if you really wanted to be a CIA spy or something, you just want to be like Brian Mills, right? So this is a synopsis of the movie. However, I did add the extra, whatever's in bold, I did highlight that extra. So Brian Mills, which is a retired CIA agent, travels across Europe and relies on his old skills. Okay, so he's a good CIA person, but he also has friends that has OSINT skills, and that's how he was able to accomplish his mission, which, to save his estranged daughter and who was kidnapped in a trip to Paris. So going back to what we were discussing about images and all that, happened to be that it was in Paris. So so the movie walked through, and again, hopefully I'm not everybody's seen the movie, and it's just a refresher. For the ones that haven't watched the movie, I will definitely suggest it to watch it. I'm not gonna tell you how it ends or anything like that. I'm just gonna give you the first part of it so you get the context. So in the movie, 17-year-old Kim, it's Brian's daughter, flies with her friend to Paris in following U2, the rock band, in their Europe tour. And she lies to her dad because she said that she knows he's paranoid. She knows that, if she tells the truth, he will not sign the paperwork because she's underage. And she told him that she was going to be doing sightseeing and visiting museums and all that. Well, eventually he found out that wasn't the truth, that she was going to follow U2. Upon arrival to Paris, she and her friend met this French guy, good looking, and then he offered to take a picture of both Kim and her friend. And that basically where everything started, because this guy started doing social engineering with the friend, and obviously the friend liked this guy, and obviously she was just open to everything, right? He was asking, oh, where are you staying, where all that, and she was just giving so much information. And as you know, you have to be cautious who you provide information because you don't know who the other person is. But so that was a big mistake. Well, the girls got kidnapped, and while Kim is hiding in the under the bed, she's talking to her dad. She's telling him that her friend is getting kidnapped. They're coming after her. So on and so on. And then Brian, the dad, said, well, just leave the phone on, but just be ready. They're gonna kidnap you, but just pay attention to what I'm gonna tell you, blah 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 blah. Well, he can't hear anything in the background. He pretty much already knows what's gonna happen. Well, they kidnap her. The guy picks up the phone, and that's when he says one of his famous quotes, which I'm gonna show you next. Then he started calling his friends, after he got their dad the information that she got kidnapped. He gets to one of his friends, and basically the friends providing with a lot of information. And one of the information is like who the kidnappers were. They were not from France. They were from another country, Slovenia, I believe. I don't recall exactly. But they were, but basically he only has 96 hours before he can save her life. Otherwise, she was going to be, send her off, somewhere. They were going to sell her as a prostitute, basically. So for him, his time's clicking and he has to get to work. Again, one of the famous quotes for this movie, and actually I'm gonna show it to you because I like it so much. Hopefully you can hear it. Let me see if he's here. It's basically this one, and hopefully you can hear it.
I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. If you are looking for ransom, I can tell you I don't have money. But what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. If you let my daughter go now, that'll be the end of it. I will not look for you. I will not pursue you. But if you don't, I will look for you. I will find you. And I will kill you.
So with that, so that's one of his famous quotes. And what I like about it is that he, as a former CIA agent, he knows that he must act very determined. And one of the things, like, he shouldn't be giving up because it is his daughter on the other end, right? So with that, I'm gonna talk about a real life scenario, which is human trafficking. Human trafficking is a real issue around the world. We barely see it in America because we have a lot of strict rules, but it still happens. And if you just turn on the news, the local news around the country, from time to time they provide cases where they bust a gang of human traffickers and stuff like that. We see those more often, like in the border towns, because obviously people who are trying to cross from Mexico to the U.S. But also, it's not just the crossing the illegal immigration, but also women who, just like in the movie, they're gonna be sold for prostitution and stuff like that. So now let's take it this scenario and let's start becoming a part of the movie. So we're gonna pretend that Brian is your friend and he's gonna trust you with this matter. He knows you're a computer geek, enthusiast, hacker, whatever you want to call it, computer guy in general. He calls you and will help you with the answer to solve his issue. How will you respond? Yes, I will help you. No, don't do it. I do have a, and this is pretty funny. I actually found it. It's I will probably provide it so I don't have to bump you with more videos. But this video right here, it's from it was from the Family Guy, and they basically replayed that scene that I was talking about using Peter's and Megan's voice, and that was pretty funny. So anyways, the movie shows different ways he gathered information, but once you watch the movie, if you have not watched it recently or at all, watch it. He applies a lot of those OSINT skills, but just pay attention that he's actually not doing all the research. The research has been provided, or the information he gathers is provided to him. So because he doesn't really have time to do it, maybe he's not even a computer guy to do it. There's people behind him to get this information to him, right? So just like John mentioned earlier, attention to detail is crucial in this type of situation, because like in the movie, if the people provide the wrong information, there is the life of other people are at risk. So when you're actually in an investigation like this, you really want to be concise. You want to provide very accurate information, because then otherwise, things can go the other way, and obviously we don't want that. So, so the question: am I ready to help Brian? The answer is no. We are not ready to help Brian yet. So, give me a second. Okay. All right. So we're not gonna there yet because we need a few things before we can actually help him. And the next thing we have in mind is the OSINT framework. Now, John mentioned it, and this is just a screenshot of what's in that website. And I'm gonna show it to you right now. If you go to the OSINT framework, these little dots will open things for where exactly you're trying to look, right? So let's say if you're looking for usernames, it's gonna pop up, tools. And if you click on that tool, it will open more tools. And if you click on this, it will actually take you to where the tool is located. And that goes for every different types of investigation that you're doing, okay? So it's very helpful. So I will definitely recommend it to spend some time on it and just clicking around to see what's in there. And for reverse engineering, just like it is on the picture, look how many things are, just for searching for images. You have just the searching engines, you have Instagram, there is Flickr, you have some metadata, forensics, and all that. Now, I was looking at this, and obviously there's missing engines there or social media such as Facebook, Twitter, Parler, others that also provide really good information. So so just keep in mind that even though a lot of good information is showing this website, there is missing information because it's just too much, and you just have to see what works and what doesn't, right? So before we actually do an investigation, we have to dedicate a machine to do this type of investigation. I will suggest not use your primary computer or production workstation at work, because you have to treat this as a real, like if you are an FBI agent helping another FBI agent in the field. So you don't want to contaminate any information that they provide you or you get and stuff like that. You basically have to start fresh. So every time you start a new investigation, right, you have to start from a fresh install. Now, what is recommended, and just like when you do penetration testing, when you do malware analysis, and so on, is that you're using a virtual machine. So because you can take snapshots, you can start, revert back, you can copy from a base image and stuff like that, and replicating instead of starting from scratch. Or if you have a spare machine around that you really want to use for this type of investigations, you can. Just keep in mind that you have to do a fresh install of the OS, everything. So it's just gonna take you time. So you can use Mac, Windows, Linux. I will say in Linux, I'm a Ubuntu user. That's my preference, but you can definitely use whatever you like. A lot of the OSINT tools that were presented in the OSINT framework, were created or have a lot of background with Linux. So you definitely will find a lot of information there. So you decide what do you want to use, but there's definitely tools for all OSs here. Once you have your pick which computer you're gonna use and all that, now it's time to set up the browser. Now, I was doing some research and happened to find out that Firefox is like the go-to browser for OSINT. Don't ask me why, but at least I was reading like 10 different forums, and out of the 10, eight of them said that Firefox is the go-to tool for OSINT. And with that, you also have to install some add-ons. This is just some of them, but just like any other browser that they have extensions and add-ons. There's a million. Sometimes they cross. They have they're available in different browsers and stuff like that. But in this case, and I'm not going to go through every single one. Definitely, once you install your first OS, you can definitely go and see where which every of this one does, right? The one that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to give a little demo, is search by image, right? Because this one actually, I found that it's a very cool tool, and I was surprised and impressed at the same time for what this tool can do. I didn't know there was such thing as that until I started doing this research, and I think that was pretty cool. So you will see in a second. So other tools that you have the EXIF tool. EXIF tool is a command line tool. So if you go to the website, it'll just provide you documentation about the tool, and it will give you the links to download. The one below is also similar to the EXIF tool from Phil Harvey. Now, the difference is that this other tool provides a way to export your findings in a CSV file, where the other one is just going to be, regular, output, right, to a, text file or something like that. Jeffrey's image metadata viewer, it's actually an online tool, and that was actually pretty cool because, you don't have to use the command line. All you have to do is click the upload, and that's it. Google Earth Pro. Now, you will say, well, you have Google Maps. Why do you want to use Google Earth? Well, just keep in mind that sometimes some of the investigations, you might be in an area where you want to find the answer, but you're not connected to the internet. And Google will, Google Earth will have, if you're doing GPS analysis of coordinates and stuff like that, Google Earth will have that offline. So you don't have to connect online. There's obviously features that you have to be online in order to get them, but in general, you'll get that information like that. So now we're going to move to metadata. So metadata, it's what is basically saying the description. It's data of data, right? And that's the best way to describe it. Especially on images, there's so much information about the images that you can use for the investigation. So in the example of the movie, right, there's the picture that the guy took with the cell phone, and then eventually Brian was able to find on the room. He actually, in the movie, he went to a picture booth, and he put in the SD card, and then he was able to see where the picture was taken, and actually was able supposedly to zoom in and see how the guy looked like and all that. Well, there's a lot of things that happen behind doors there, because I honestly don't think he, obviously it's a Hollywood movie, so he's a superhero almost. But in reality, you might not know exactly where the picture was taken and how the guy looked like, unless you take it to a tool where it's going to show you that information. So in the metadata, there is a thing called geotagging. And geotagging, basically, it's the process of identification of GPS coordinates. That's what it is. It shows the connection of those coordinates and where the picture was taken and all that. So that's basically what it is. Now, you see this camera. This camera is a semi-pro camera, and I actually do have the same camera. Happen to have the same camera model and everything, and it does have the a plugin to put in the GPS input, which is this one. This is like the dongle. So if you don't have this dongle, then obviously you're not going to have GPS data, and you're going to be probably asking, is like, well, why do you want to have GPS coordinates on an expensive camera like this? Like, what's the point? Well, I did actually have to ask my friend about it, because I was asking the same question. I was like, well, why is this even here? why do I even care about GPS coordinates in here? And he actually gave me a really good explanation because he's a photographer. And he said, well, sometimes when we're looking for where to take pictures, we, we take pictures everywhere, and you're not really paying attention where you took the picture until you actually go back to your studio and start looking at the cameras, and you're saying, oh my God, this is the place where I really want to do it. And because you went to all these places, you don't really remember where exactly it was. You don't remember it was on Park A or Park B or in the mountains. You don't really know that. But with obviously GPS coordinates, he can actually look where the picture was taken, at what time, and all that. And that's how they are able to go back and see that information. So it's very helpful for them. And obviously for investigations, like when FBI agents do seizing of something, also it is important that it has that information, because they need to know where the picture was taken, and they can just go back when they're doing actually an investigation of that caliber. They can actually match the where the picture was taken with where, let's say, if they took a picture of a bullet, where the bullet was located and stuff like that. So it's kind of like collaboration on corroboration in that respect. So with that, all your phones by default has the location tags enabled, and obviously that's for a reason, because Google or Apple wants to know, they want to know about your pictures and where everything where it was located and everything. But you have the option to take those down, and I will show you that in fact you cannot. It will definitely erase that information from the metadata. Now, with that being said, does that mean it's really erased? We don't know that yet, because maybe there's some hidden information that these commercial tools, or I should say open source tools, are not providing. But maybe there's some commercial tools that the FBI is using that we don't know about it, and they actually can retrieve that information. So we don't know that. So here I'm going to show you Jeffrey's image viewer. So on the picture on the left, so it is basically the same location, two different pictures, and I will show you in a second here. So picture on the left, it has the coordinates, the location, right? Where picture on the right, picture on the left doesn't have that information. But if you can see, it is the same. I took the picture, in fact, last night, just to do that investigation, whether it was going to show or not. And I'm well, not surprised, but I'm glad that the location wasn't there after I turned off my geo tags. So as you can see, a little bit, same angle, same everything. But yeah, this picture does not have the geolocation. So if we scroll down, you will see that here even has a GPS location, but this one doesn't have it. Again, that's just for your kind of like your information. When you're doing it in the command line, it's pretty much the same thing. When you're using the EXIF tool, let me this is the same information. Here you can see that GPS on the left, it has the GPS, and I don't know if you can see it. Let me, it has that information here, but it's not showing in here, right? So as you can see, you can see it on both the command line and the other tool here. Now GPS coordinates. I was doing the research exactly how you're supposed to enter them, and it's actually very tricky. But either on Google Earth or Google Maps, you have to enter in a certain way. So I'm just showing it in here, but this link is actually very cool. I'm going to show it to you. I'm not going to go through it. I really want you to go through it and experience, how you enter, the process of entering coordinates and getting information on Google Maps in terms of location and stuff like that, because it does provide you step by step on how you're supposed to use it and things that you have to keep in mind. It even shows you like a way to do it in Excel and all that. So it's actually pretty cool. So something that John was mentioning earlier with of looking at what's in the picture and stuff like that. This is the type of information that you can put in an Excel sheet and stuff like that. And you can put the points and you can download and do a bunch of stuff. So all you have to do is just basically research. So let me see here. So question, so am I ready to help Brian? And the answer, I think, is yes. Now I think you have enough tools and knowledge to do at least helping with part of the investigation, which the first one that came into mind was a picture. Getting a picture of something, it is very useful because it will take you to other places. Now, as a practice, and I don't know if John, if you can send me one of the pictures that you use on your what you call your presentation. I really want to do a quick demo, because here's another thing that you can use in Firefox. I mentioned about this tool called search by the image, and you can search by different engines. What is cool about it is that you have different options. You can select a picture when you're on the website, so you just basically click on it and it will automatically start searching for it. You can select or upload a picture. You can just cut and paste part of that picture. So if we're going to John's presentation, maybe we don't want to take where the people were, but maybe we want to take where the buildings were, and that's where we're going to capture. You can actually just upload it or just provide a URL. So what I was doing earlier, I just typed Budapest earlier, and I just pick a random picture from what's in here, right? So I went in here and said, okay, that's a pretty nice picture. I think I picked this one. Yeah. So here, what I did is I went and click search by capture, and I highlight all search engines, and I highlight this one. Now, I'm not telling anything about it other than selecting the picture. So I'm not telling it it's in Budapest. I'm not telling everything. But once this happens, you can click on search, and then it will start opening all the search engines that you select on, and you will see that it will start populating pictures of that location, right? And I didn't tell the picture that it was in Budapest, but it started telling me about it. So some search engines are better than others. Some of them will provide actually different angles of it, so you can start, taking different approaches to it. And now, last but not least, you can take these and take it to, like, let's say if you're taking a picture of a street, you can actually take it to Google Maps or Google Earth, and actually start playing with, the Google functions in terms of like live image, well, not live image, but like the Google streets and stuff like that, right? Yeah, see, like this one, this is from the Chinese one. This is Tiny Eye. So again, it also, I guess this particular image is very like famous because it not only show in this original website, which is director.co.uk, but also in other websites. So this image is being used by different in different places, as you can see in TinyEye. And again, it depending what are you using, it will show you different locations, different times, different, stuff like that. So, so with that, let me go back to this. So, in summary, I mean, OSINT is very powerful, but it's also dangerous at the same time. You just like any knowledge on penetration testing, right? You can use it for good, you can use it for bad, but use your judgment and use it for good. Whatever we're showing you here, obviously we're not telling you to go and dox people or be a stalker or anything like that, but just know that you can actually help people, just like John mentioned, with the CTF lab for like missing people, CTF, or other organizations that are doing this type of work. Join them. They are using real data, and you can put your skills with that, and definitely learn more skills that what we presented in here. So having these skills are very important. You don't really know, and pray that no one goes through a scenario just like Brian in the movie went through, having a daughter kidnapped. But definitely, I have had family members kidnapped, and and it's very stressful when you know that the other person might not come back. Let's put it that way. But yeah, having those skills, it can be very very helpful. Just remember that not everybody's a computer person, and whatever extra information or a skill that you have, it works more than just staying there crying and not doing anything. So put those skills into practice. Definitely have a Brian Mills mentality, when conducting investigations, or when you're thinking, in the worst case scenarios, just remember that it's not time to sit down and cry. You actually have to start doing work, and you have to be cold-hearted in that respect, because otherwise, then you will fail in general. Again, you never know when you're gonna use these skills. So with that, if you guys have got any questions, happy to answer. Otherwise, here's my information, and thank you all for attending. It was a good presentation.
Thank you, Marco. That was awesome. And with that, any questions? No questions. All right, then we'll see you next week. We should be also an amazing presentation. So thank you very much. See you guys later.